Hello, and welcome. Today we're going to explore a deeply human, yet often misunderstood landscape, the intricate connection between shame and violence. It's a topic clouded by common myths, assumptions that, while seemingly intuitive, often hinder our ability to truly understand, prevent, and heal from the devastating impacts of violence. Our emotions are powerful forces, shaping our perceptions and reactions to the world, and few emotions are as potent or as misunderstood as shame. When we talk about violence, whether it's domestic, interpersonal, or societal, we often focus on anger, control, or aggression as the primary drivers. But what if there's a powerful, often hidden emotion at play, an emotion that can ignite a destructive rage and fuel violent acts? This is where shame enters the conversation. We need to peel back the layers of misconception to see the truth. Myths about shame and violence perpetuate harm. They lead to victim blaming, to simplistic solutions, and they prevent us from addressing the root causes of destructive behaviors. Today, our goal is to gently, yet firmly, dismantle these myths, offering a clearer, evidence-informed perspective that I hope will foster a deeper understanding and perhaps more effective paths forward. Let's begin by setting a foundational understanding, starting with perhaps the most pervasive myth of all. Myth number 1, shame and guilt are the same thing. We often use these words interchangeably, but in the world of psychology, their distinction is crucial, and it's the key to understanding their differing impacts on our behavior. Think of it this way. Guilt is about behavior. When we feel guilt, we think, I did something bad. It's an adaptive emotion, meaning it can actually be helpful. Guilt prompts remorse, a desire to take responsibility, to apologize, or to make amends. It often motivates positive change. Shame, on the other hand, is about self. When we feel shame, the thought isn't, I did something bad, but rather, I am bad. It's a deeply painful feeling of worthlessness, defectiveness, and inferiority. Shame often leads to withdrawal, to hiding, or paradoxically, to aggression. It's often maladaptive, meaning it can hinder growth and drive destructive patterns. This distinction is vital, because if we can't tell the difference, we might try to shame someone into changing, thinking we're promoting guilt, when in reality, we're often just intensifying the very emotion that leads to further destructive behavior. Myth number 2, shame always leads to positive change, or it's a weakness that can be easily overcome. While a touch of adaptive shame might nudge us towards self-improvement, chronic, intense shame is far from a positive motivator. In fact, it often serves as a precursor to destructive aggression. Researchers like Thomas Scheff and Suzanne Retzinger have theorized what's known as the shame-rage-violence sequence. It suggests that intense, unacknowledged shame can quickly escalate into rage, which then tragically erupts into violent acts. Imagine someone feeling deeply humiliated or worthless. Their internal world is in turmoil, and rather than collapsing, their system might trigger what's called an attack-other response. This is a defensive mechanism, where the individual lashes out with anger or violence towards others, desperate to cope with the excruciating pain of their own shame. It's not a sign of strength. It's often a desperate act stemming from profound internal suffering. This leads us to our next set of myths, delving deeper into the dangerous facets of unacknowledged shame. Myth number 3, violence is simply about anger or a desire for control. Shame has little to do with it. We often use these words interchangeably, but in the world of psychology, their distinction is crucial, and it's the key to understanding their differing impacts on our behavior.
While anger and control are certainly elements in many violent situations, shame is often a silent, insidious force operating beneath the surface. For individuals steeped in shame, it's unbearable to face their own perceived inadequacies, so they engage in what's known as the externalization of blame. They project their negative feelings, their own sense of defectiveness, onto others. It's your fault I feel this way, becomes the underlying message, a behavior that frequently precedes aggression and violence. Consider the concept of a narcissistic facade or threatened egotism. Some individuals develop a rigid, often aggressive or macho exterior as a protective shield against deep-seated shame. When this facade is challenged, perhaps through criticism, perceived disrespect, or even just not getting their way, that underlying shame is threatened. This can trigger an explosive, violent reaction. Prominent figures in the study of violence, such as James Gilligan, have posited that shame is not just a contributing factor, but often the primary or ultimate cause of all violence. It's a stark claim that underscores its profound influence. Myth number 4. Shame is a fleeting emotion. It doesn't leave lasting scars that lead to violence. Unfortunately, for many, shame is not fleeting. It can become a chronic condition, deeply ingrained, and a significant driver of antisocial behavior and violence. This chronic shame often has deep roots in early life experiences: trauma, neglect, narcissistic trauma, insecure attachments, or severe childhood violence, what we commonly refer to as adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. These experiences can lead to increased shame proneness in adulthood, making individuals far more likely to react violently when triggered. Humiliation, often a public or intense form of shame, is frequently identified as a direct trigger for violent behavior across various contexts, from schoolyard bullying to more severe acts. It's not just a passing bad feeling. It can be a deeply traumatic wound that festers, and in the wrong circumstances can explode. Myth number 5. The link between shame and violence is universal, regardless of gender or culture. While the shame-rage-violence dynamic can manifest in anyone, gender roles and cultural contexts significantly shape how shame is experienced and expressed, particularly when it comes to violence. In many patriarchal societies, men are often socialized to suppress emotions and to equate vulnerability with shame. Violence in this context can become a tragically normalized, albeit destructive way for some men to diminish feelings of shame or restore a sense of dominance when their ego is threatened. Conversely, for women, experiencing violence from others typically intensifies their shame, driving them further into silence and isolation, rather than acting out with aggression. Cultural specificities also play a role in how shame-related anger manifests, highlighting the need for culturally sensitive approaches to understanding and addressing this complex issue. Now, let's turn our attention to how these myths influence our interventions and societal responses, and why some common approaches may be doing more harm than good. Myth number 6. Shaming people is an effective way to stop violence or bad behavior. This is a particularly dangerous misconception. The idea that if we just make someone feel bad enough, they'll stop their harmful actions often backfires dramatically. As we've discussed, shame often drives withdrawal or aggression. When we use shaming as a punishment, in legal systems, public discourse, or even within families, we risk intensifying the very shame that fuels maladaptive behaviors.
This myth, though not directly about shame's role in the act of violence, profoundly impacts our response to it. Societal myths about domestic and family violence often blame victims, question their choices, why don't they just leave, or narrowly define abuse, contributing to a culture of silence and stigma. This often overlooks the incredible complexity of these situations, including the role of shame for both the person experiencing violence and the person causing harm. For the person experiencing violence, the shame of being abused, of feeling trapped, or of having their autonomy stripped away can be overwhelming, making it incredibly difficult to seek help or leave. For the person causing harm, shame, as we've explored, can be a potent, unacknowledged driver of their behavior. Organizations like Safe and Equal and researchers globally are actively engaged in debunking these harmful societal myths, advocating for a more nuanced understanding and compassionate, effective support systems. So where does this leave us? We've journeyed through the intricate landscape of shame and violence, debunking several powerful myths along the way. The key takeaway is this: shame is a profoundly complex and often hidden emotion that frequently acts as a powerful destructive force, driving violence. It's not simply anger or a desire for control or a sign of moral weakness easily overcome. It's often rooted in deep-seated trauma and a profound sense of worthlessness. Understanding this distinction, recognizing the shame, rage, violence sequence, and acknowledging the insidious role of chronic shame is absolutely critical. By debunking these myths, we open the door to more effective, compassionate, and evidence-informed interventions. This means shifting away from shaming as a tool for change, and instead embracing shame-sensitive practice in all our interactions, from policing to therapeutic settings. It means recognizing the profound impact of adverse childhood experiences and addressing chronic shame at its roots. And crucially, it means fostering a societal understanding of violence that moves beyond simplistic blame towards empathy and a commitment to genuine healing. Our collective future depends on our ability to understand these deep human complexities. By bringing light to the hidden drivers of violence, we take a significant step towards creating safer, more compassionate communities for everyone. Thank you for joining me today in exploring this vital topic.